8 Coronation Street spoilers for next week 26th to 30th May. Next week on Coronation Street. Brody wishes solutions from Kit and Bernie. There may be a wonder go back at Julie's wake. And could Carla take delivery of Lisa's proposal? 1. Brody confronts Kit. As the road struggles to return back to phrases with the surprising occasions of Ultimate Week, which noticed longtime period resident Craig lose his lifestyles in a brutal assault completed via way of means of Mick. Kit is left grappling together along with his very own function with inside the tragedy and the secrets and techniques that have been found out. Mick's violent spiral become induced via way of means of the revelation that his former great mate, Kit, can be the organic father of his son, Brody. The uncertainty over Brody's parentage is the end result of a short fling among Kit and Mick's then female friend Lou, even as Mick become in the back of bars in his past due teens. It were the incorrect location and the incorrect time for Craig, who, after attending a suspected home disturbance on the Michaelis residence in advance with inside the day, had given chase and pulled over Mick's van. Having been closely drinking, Mick took his frustrations out on Craig via way of means of attacking him with a baseball bat. Craig later succumbed to his accidents in hospital, even as Lou become taken to A&E via way of means of Tim after Mick had left her with a head wound for the duration of their in advance altercation. Consumed via way of means of anger, Mick took Kit's mom Bernie hostage in a twisted try to entice Kit right into a very last showdown. Still sour over Kit letting him take the autumn for the teenage incident that derailed his Navy ambitions. The fact approximately Brody had driven him over the edge. Kit become going to pay. Although Mick in short were given the top hand on Kit as they fought it out. The police arrived with inside the nick of time, permitting Kit to location Mick beneath arrest for Craig's death. Mick tried to supply himself an alibi, declaring that he become with Brody all afternoon. Become quickly quashed whilst Lisa found out that Brody had definitely been in a police mobilular all day for being under the influence of alcohol and disorderly. Next week, Brody is left seeking to address the fallout of his dad's arrest, and tenses up as he listens to a message from him. When Kit later returns to his Red Bank flat, he is stunned to discover Brody smashing it up. Brody states that Mick has claimed he's innocent, and is being installation via way of means of Kit and the relaxation of the police. Kit flippantly lays out the data. The proof paints a one-of-a-kind picture. And Mick's records of violence speaks for itself. Mick had even been retaining the baseball bat with Craig's blood nevertheless on it whilst he become arrested. But Brody would not take it well. In a flash of anger, he launches at Kit, slamming him into the wall. As Sarah and Bernie arrive at Red Bank, Brody bolts out of the building, his face hidden below a hoodie. But what is going to they discover once they get inside? 2. Bernie stands up for Brody. Later with inside the week, Kit is fuming whilst Lisa tells him that Brody has been given an alibi for the break-in, via way of means of none apart from Bernie. Kit confronts Bernie and warns her that she's left him in a not possible position. Either he has to inform Lisa that he become mistaken, or fee Bernie with perverting the path of justice. Bernie speaks up for her newfound grandson via way of means of reminding Kit that Brody is own circle of relatives. Main Kit having to expose to Sarah that he suspects Brody as his son. Kit gives Brody a deal: he's going to drop the housebreaking fee if Brody has the same opinion to live at the instantly and narrow. He would not need to look him become like Mick. But will Brody take delivery of? Later, Brody confronts Bernie, trying to recognize why she caught up for him. The ultimate time the two encountered every other. Bernie had simply stuck Brody stealing from the Nook shop. So it is comprehensible that he is stressed as to why Bernie could offer him with an alibi. Will Bernie screen the fact approximately their own circle of relatives link? 3. Lou offers with the fallout. Meanwhile, Lou and daughters Joni and Shanice have sought shelter with Tim and Sally following Mick's arrest. But the judgment that Lou feared quick comes round whilst Maria sacks her from the salon. Coming throughout Gary, Lou tells him that she's sorry he were given a beating from Mick. However, admits it wasn't precisely out of man or woman she's been at the receiving, give up greater instances than she will count. Gary, stuck off Shield via way of means of her honesty. Finally ends up shopping for her a drink, feeling sorry for what she's been through. But whilst Maria then comes into the Rovers and unearths the two in conversation, how will she react? Over on the prison, we see that Mick has obtained a flavor of his very own medicine, as he lies at the ground of his mobilular, badly beaten. On Friday, Kit tells Sarah that it is Mick's day in courtroom docket and that he is certain a responsible plea is at the cards. Visiting her husband, Lou is greatly surprised via way of means of the nation Mick's in battered and bruised. Mick wastes no time pointing the finger at Kit, claiming he orchestrated the attack and warned matters could simplest worsen if he failed to admit to the costs and plead responsible. Later, Lou returns from courtroom docket and tells Brody that his dad entered a now no longer responsible plea. Brody's over the moon, however Lou cannot carry herself to expose that Mick may have a rate to pay. 4. Accusations overshadow Julie's farewell. Elsewhere, feelings are jogging excessive with inside the Grimshaw family as very last arrangements are made for Julie's funeral. Eileen observed herself beneath a cloud of suspicion after Julie's accomplice Brian observed an empty packet of her prescription painkillers in Julie's belongings, elevating uncomfortable questions on whether or not she performed a function in her sister's passing. Things simplest were given worse whilst George tried to perform the embalming earlier than an postmortem might be completed. A flow that now no longer simplest hinted at his very own doubts, however additionally raised pink flags with the police. Next week, Eileen hears affirmation that the medicine observed in Julie's device had been certainly the painkillers that had been prescribed to herself. And now no longer Julie. As she relays the information to George and Brian, Brian makes an offhand remark that hits a nerve, prompting Eileen to prohibit him from the funeral altogether. George reveals himself caught with inside the middle, uncertain the way to assist Eileen and an increasing number of out of his depth. As the mourners collect on Friday, Eileen passes Brian a letter from Julie. After studying its contents, Brian demanding situations Eileen over Julie's existence coverage one which names her as the only beneficiary and has by no means been mentioned. Eileen insists she simplest found out of it after Julie's passing, but whilst Tracy throws round accusations of foul play, suggesting Eileen had a hand in Julie's dying for economic gain, Eileen loses it. In the fallout, she lashes out at George, blaming him for the chaos overshadowing her sister's very last goodbye. 5. A Marvel visitor interrupts George's large second. A brief time later, the institution takes component in one in every of Julie's video games, sharing their dreams. When George famous that his dream is to marry Eileen, she's taken absolutely via way of means of Marvel. Realizing that George is serious, Eileen struggles to solution, but earlier than she will respond, an acquainted face enters the pub. The Rover returns, he states, and Eileen is taken aback to comprehend that it is her eldest son, Jason. Eileen is ecstatic to welcome Jason home, leaving George's query awkwardly striking with inside the air as he awaits a response. Having introduced his retirement from appearing in 2021, Ryan admits he became fearful to step returned on set. But with Jason having spent almost a decade in Thailand, what has delivered him returned to the drastically much less tropical climes of Weatherfield? 6. Ronnie takes a shady task. Meanwhile, Debbie is rattled whilst ex-fiancé Ronnie introduces her to Fiona. An antique flame, he insists he and Fiona are actually simply mates. However, Debbie's honestly now no longer shopping for it as she pretends she could not care much less. When her Telecel smartphone rings, Debbie seizes the instant, letting Ronnie agree with she's seen a person new. Carl later warns Ronnie to live away, claiming Debbie needs not anything extra to do with him and has banned him from the hotel. Tempers flare as the two guys face off. Later with Inside the Week, Fiona traces up a regarding task for Ronnie offloading a stolen car. He meets with a capacity consumer and launches into his slick income routine. But whilst the person mentions he is currently misplaced his wife, Ronnie falters, his judgment of right and wrong kicking in. Ronnie backs out, leaving the consumer confused. Later, As Ronnie calls Fiona and pretends the consumer walked away. The passenger door swings open and Carl climbs in, annoying in explanation. 7. What's Carl up to? Later, Abby's now no longer inspired whilst she reveals out Kevin has employed Carl on the garage. When the pair are ultimately out of the manor and Carl is alone, he makes a name to Fiona and quietly takes shipping of a dodgy car. It's clean that Carl has ulterior reasons in taking a task at his brother's garage, however what has he were given planned? 8. Will Carla say yes? Also subsequent week. After an extended weekend of anticipation, Swarla lovers will eventually get to peer how Carla responds to Lisa's surprise proposal. After a harrowing day at paintings following Craig's dying, Lisa broke down in Carla's hands as she back home. Later, reflecting on how human beings usually anticipate there is extra time than there certainly is, Lisa became to Carla in a sudden, heartfelt second as she determined to stay for the instant. "Marry me," she stated to a greatly surprised Carla. As we go back to the scene, Carla cannot assist however marvel whether or not Lisa certainly supposed what she stated, possibly questioning whether or not she became talking with inside the warmth of the instant following her annoying day. Will Lisa stand via way of means of her proposal? And if so, what is going to Carla's solution be? Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more movie spoilers next week. Goodbye and see you again.